Well, good evening and welcome to your town hall. Having reached the hour of 6 o'clock, I'll hereby call to order the meeting of the Sahuarita Town Council. And as always, we're being filmed for tonight's town council meeting. The invocation will be given by Vice Mayor Kara Egbert. Happy Easter week as we begin with our invocation. And I don't think our pledge leader is here this evening. So when we start, I'll just have everybody join after the invocation with the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Mayor?
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are grateful for thy love for each of thy children and for thy greatness and for thy mercy. As we are in the midst of the Holy Week, we pray for peace in our world, in our country. We pray for peace in our family and within our own hearts. As we celebrate our Savior's triumph over death, we recognize that because of him, we will all live again. We can each receive relief, hope, and healing in our lives. We pray that thou will grant us thy protection, and we humbly pray for that protection upon our military, our police, and our first responders. Because of the Savior, we can also receive wisdom, understanding, and perspective. And this evening, we humbly pray for these gifts upon this council, upon this staff, and upon the residents in attendance. We are grateful for thee and for thy Son. We say these things humbly in the name of the Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we'll begin, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bracco.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Gillespie.
Here.
Councilmember Morales. Absent. Councilmember Priolo.
Here.
Vice Mayor Egbert.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thanks. We have two presentations tonight, well, two groups of presentations. I'll begin at the podium with Devin proclaiming April 26th Arbor Day, and then after I finish, I'm going to have ask the council to come down on the floor, kind of in front of where Lisa and Shane are sitting, and then we'll move to our employee appreciation boards. And I did want to, I see a new face to my left, Mr. Pierce, and for the audience to know, I think John Palladini is on vacation, and one of the advantages in my mind of having this group that we get to work with, when somebody is one deep and they're out, we're not without. We have a deep bench with Pierce Coleman. So, Justin, thank you for being here this evening. Devin? Whereas the town of Sahuarita will observe Arbor Day in 2024 by attending the Arizona Arbor Day celebration in the historic Senate chambers at the Arizona Capitol Museum, and whereas residents are encouraged to celebrate at home by planting and caring for trees to improve the quality of life, and whereas the Arbor Day Foundation, in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service and National Association of State Foresters, has recognized the town of Sahuarita with Tree City USA status. Whereas trees moderate temperatures, lower heating and cooling costs, clean the air, reduce topsoil erosion, produce oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and produce many other benefits. Now therefore it be resolved that I, Tom Murphy, the mayor of town of Sahuarita, on behalf of the town council, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day, and testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the town of Sahuarita on this 25th day of March 2024. Congratulations, Devin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, we really appreciate this recognition. As you're all aware, our Parks and Rec Department prides ourselves in our arbor certification, we do to keep a tree inventory, and we're continuing to increase the number of trees that we supply into our park system. It's a goal of ours to continue to do so to provide shade coverage for our users in the community parks, and we're really excited to continue this process and have Arbor Day recognized. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And if the council members can come down, whichever way is easiest, on the floor, and then line up in front of Shane and Lisa. Nathan, is that, yeah, catch you. And Nathan Barrett will be serving as our MC for this wonderful event and probably give us a little background. I know we retooled a little bit our employee appreciation event.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. In 2023, the Town Manager's Office initiated a restructuring of the Employee Appreciation Awards. Previously, the town gave out 2 awards annually, the Above and Beyond Award and the Manager's Choice Award, both of which were usually earned by field service or public-facing personnel. To broaden the scope of recognition beyond those roles, 3 more awards were introduced last year, reflecting the town's core principles of teamwork and cooperation, dependability, and responsiveness. Those 3 awards were named the Saguaro Award, the Santa Cruz Award, and the Sierrita Award. In addition, the Above and Beyond Award and the Manager's Choice Award were renamed as the B. Saguarita Award. The B. Saguarita Award is presented to both an individual and to a team that always exceed expectations and have meaningfully contributed to the town's success. Their work performance surpasses expectations, and their consistent effort brings pride to their department and to the town. B. Saguarita is a phrase we use around here to represent our commitment to the community we serve. Our B. Saguarita Award recipients exemplify above and beyond energy and passion for the town where they work, live, and thrive. B. Saguarita recognizes that it is through our united efforts that we all grow and succeed. We are united by a shared vision of the future of this community and are united in our individual desires to serve the residents who call this place home. The Saguaro Award for Teamwork and Cooperation is presented to an individual who is generous and caring toward their team members and always goes above and beyond to help their coworkers. The Santa Cruz Award for Dependability is presented to an individual that can always be counted on when assistance is required. This employee consistently proves to be reliable by giving 110% no matter the task they are called on to perform. The Sierrita Award for Responsiveness is presented to an individual who responds immediately to a perceived need and excels in responding to the requirements of their job with swiftness, enthusiasm, and sensitivity. Nominations for these awards were submitted on behalf of the employee by their colleagues and coworkers. To be nominated for such an award by one's peers is truly a testament to the positive impact that these individuals have made in the lives of those they work with and serve. So without further ado, we will announce and recognize the winners of the 2023 Employee Appreciation Awards. As your name is called, please walk to the front of the room here on the right-hand side, greet the council members, and receive your award. The Saguaro Award for Teamwork and Cooperation is presented to Kaylee Warren, Executive Assistant in the Sahuarita Police Department. She was nominated by Mark Felix. Kaylee possesses an exceptional level of approachability, and she is always prompt to each and every request made of her. She is the essence of a team player, and these accolades are echoed by numerous other staff members. Kaylee, thank you for your service. The Santa Cruz Award for Dependability is presented to Leah Rhodes, Deputy Town Clerk. She was nominated by Jennifer Busey. Leah takes great pride in her role as Deputy Town Clerk. Her work is done with passion and precision. Leah always makes time to help anyone who calls on her for assistance, even if it means staying late or suspending other tasks. Leah, thank you for your service. The Sierrita Award for Responsiveness is presented to Becky Pollard, Systems Technician. She was nominated by Jennifer Busey and Nathan Barrett. When there's an issue to be solved, Becky is never more than a few minutes away, responding to issues large and small with a great attitude and a smile. She is ready to fix whatever issue needs fixing quickly and efficiently. Becky, thank you for your service. The B. Sahuarita Team Award is presented to the Sahuarita Police Department Traffic Bureau, consisting of Sergeant Jairo Tadeo, Officer Joseph Rivera, Officer Justin Cullens, and Officer Zachary Woodrow. This team was nominated by Paul Burton. Not only does the SPD Traffic Bureau treat every request as a high priority, but they also provide support in maintaining the town's essential infrastructure. Officers frequently reach out to other departments, ensuring that damaged highway signs, handrails, or landscaping are replaced or repaired quickly and efficiently. In showing their willingness to work closely with colleagues from different departments, they demonstrate what it means to be Sahuarita. SPD Traffic Bureau, thank you for your service. This year, the selection team has chosen 2 nominees to receive the B. Sahuarita Individual Award. These nominees were jointly selected because they have demonstrated the same level of grace and professionalism while working together on the same unprecedented and demanding challenge. The first B. Sahuarita Individual Award is presented to Anna Cassidy, Planning and Building Director. She was nominated by Nathan Barrett. Anna has provided a calm and steady leadership to her team and to her department, and has been a professional and knowledgeable voice for the town. Her meticulous attention to detail, thorough understanding of regulations, and commitment to excellence truly demonstrates what it means to be Sahuarita. The second B. Sahuarita Individual Award is presented to Dylan Perry, Senior Planner. He was nominated by Anna Cassidy and Orlanthia Henderson. Dylan has a stellar track record of excellent customer service, high-quality technical work, and high-volume output, while simultaneously fostering outstanding working relationships with his customers, outside agencies, and other town staff members throughout the organization. In exercising his professional duties with such dedication and professionalism, Dylan truly demonstrates what it means to be Sahuarita. We also wish to acknowledge the many other great employees who were nominated for one or more of these awards. As mentioned earlier, each of these employees was nominated for an award by one of their coworkers or peers. Devin Stalder, Parks and Recreation Director, was nominated for both the B. Sahuarita Individual Award and the Saguaro Award for Teamwork. Sergio Burgos Sr., Traffic Technician, was nominated for the B. Sahuarita Individual Award. Lacey Simmons, Special Events Coordinator, was nominated for the Saguaro Award for Teamwork. John Garcia, Engineering Technician, was nominated for the Santa Cruz Award for Dependability. Jonathan De Leon, Facilities Technician, was nominated for the Sierrita Award for Responsiveness. And Julie Rosales, Police Record Supervisor, was nominated for the Ciarita Award for Responsiveness. Please join me in giving a round of applause to each of these amazing people.
Next is item 6, call to the public. We're still providing the option for a spokesperson to speak on behalf of a group. Some individuals have inquired about the possibility of a group transferring their comment time to another speaker. Of course, I'm willing to grant that spokesperson the opportunity to speak for a maximum of 10 minutes on behalf of a group of 10 or more individuals present at the meeting. If you're acting as spokesperson, kindly indicate that by checking the designated checkbox on the speaker card. When the spokesperson's name is called, I'll also request that the group be represented stand. At this time, I'll move on to the call to the public. I'd like to extend an invitation to any member of the public to address the town council regarding any topic listed on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the town council can legally permitted to act upon at a future meeting. As per the Arizona open meeting laws, the council cannot discuss these matters. However, individual council members may respond to criticism made by the speakers, request staff to review the matter, or propose adding to a future agenda item. And I have a few this evening. We'll begin with Linda Beal. After Linda will be Joe Caparino. And I know most of the people that are speaking tonight are familiar with the 3 lights. The green light is the 3 minutes, the yellow light is a minute remaining, and then the red light, the trap door opens and you disappear. So, and so far no one's disappeared, so we really appreciate that. Linda, please continue.
Mayor Murphy, council, staff, I'm Linda Beal from Quail Creek. OSHA requires backup alarm beepers on heavy equipment and trucks. These operate between 97 and 112 decibels. The chart included at the end of the CUP draft compares 95 to 100 decibels to an approaching subway train or a car horn at 16 feet. 110 decibels, closer to 112, is compared to a dog barking in your ear, an ice cream truck, or a trombone. Now, condition 14 of the CUP requires an MSHA/OSHA compliant low decibel reverse signal alarm, unquote. Google search yields nothing with that title. How many decibels are there in one of those? Do they mean 97 decibels instead of 112? Where's the data that says this beeping isn't going to bother us on the golf course or on our patios? This does not worry Vulcan one bit. Do you know? Condition 7A excludes regulating operation of motor vehicles or other transportation facilities. Boy, does Vulcan know how to write exclusions to all the problems our town code should prevent us from suffering. Frankly, Vulcan is a manufacturer planning to sell its asphalt to a highway project. That does not obligate Sahuarita to write a CUP that allows them to make unlimited noise 24/7, put up to 9 tons of pollution into our air, and so on. The CUP is currently written so they can do whatever they want. Not okay. We have provided information that Vulcan is a bad neighbor in other communities and countries. They seem willing to budget in huge fines and continue to harm and aggravate their neighbors. Condition 30 of the CUP says, once approved, we cannot reevaluate the conditions for 10 years. The town code only says it can only be enforced if the use remains in conformance with the terms of approval for the life of the project. We better make those good and airtight. Sahuarita is obligated to write a CUP based on reliable, specific information and research that will effectively mitigate noise, pollution, traffic concerns, health concerns, and infringement on the rights of existing citizens to enjoy comfort, repose, health, peace, and safety. The 10-year reference in condition 30 is unconscionable. I don't see significant changes happening in the CUP. But I did discover that, can I finish my sentence?
Yes.
I did discover that there seem to be 3 versions of the town code as of December. There's a web and a something else online, and then the one that the town has.
Thank you. Joe Caparino, and then Gail Baumgartner.
I wish I had a nice Irish name. It's much easier to pronounce.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
Caprino. Anyway, my name is Joe Caprino. I live at
Caprino.
99 West Calle Moncayo, and I was starting to make notes, but anyway, didn't think I would be speaking. But I want to talk about the asphalt plant. Give you a little bit of background on me. A couple of you know that I work at a large grocery store on the corner, have seen me. In my real life, I worked as a respiratory therapist. I worked in critical care medicine, pulmonary rehab, you name it. Concern I have is that there's going to be fumes. Whether you can smell them, see them, or not, there's going to be fumes, and we have to breathe. Oftentimes, respiratory ailments don't manifest right away. Some of them 10, 20, 30, 40 years. COPD, emphysema, if you've ever seen somebody in mid-stage or end stage, it's like breathing through a straw. You die slowly. This is what concerns me, is what's going to be in the air. There's no perfect air. Maybe the top of the Himalayas, I don't know. So with that being said, if I have to vote, regardless of what the environmental impact study says, I'm going to err in favor of caution and tell Vulcan or any other asphalt company, what have you, thank you very much for the consideration, but I have to decline. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Gail, and then Eva Stevens.
Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Gail Baumgartner. I live in Rancho Sahuarita, and I'm a member of CCS, Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita. Over the course of the last year, many facts have been presented to the council regarding the release of hazardous effects of odor and particulate matter from hot mix asphalt plants. It has been clearly demonstrated by the CDC that odor is a characteristic sign of pollution release due to the presence of poisonous, volatile organic compounds that, frankly, stink. The fact that odor has no regulatory oversight does not excuse its presence as a nuisance or its harmful, noxious, and destructive effects. This, however, is only one piece of the puzzle. In addition to odor, particulate matter has also been clearly identified as a health hazard. Particulate matter in 2.5 micron through 10 micron sizes have also been demonstrated to cause health issues, with dispersion patterns conservatively estimated at between 10 to 100 miles. What will be the eventual spread, given the wind patterns we already know exist in this area? I gave you that study a year ago. Consider this fact. You already have a significant release of particulate matter from Freeport McMoran copper mine to the west. The Rosemont copper mines open to the east is egregiously being forced upon us. It's only a matter of time before it spews tons of particulate matter into our clean air, drains our aquifer, poisons the water, and destroys the environment as well. And yet, we sit here evaluating and discussing placement of hot mix asphalt plant in the middle of town. How much pollution is too much? How much are you seriously willing to allow? How can anyone who lives in this community find this acceptable? The collective accumulation of many organic and inorganic compounds stored in the fatty tissues of the body are resistant to degradation by metabolizing enzymes and can resist liver detoxification. Unidentified substances in our bodies, by our bodies, either ingested or inhaled as odor, are incorporated into your fat cells because the substances are not readily recognized, metabolized, or secreted. They remain present in storage as toxic material for biological uptake. It is only a matter of time until concentrations build and the exposure is extremely hazardous. Given these facts, in a few short years, this will no longer be the Santa Cruz Valley. It will be the Valley of Death. I sincerely urge you to vote to deny the conditional use permit cut by Vulcan Materials. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Eva Stevens, and then Lisa Rosenberg.
Hey, Town Council, Mayor Murphy, residents of Sahuarita. My name is Eva Stevens. I'm a wife, a business owner, a mother of 3 kids. I love my town. I love the people in my town, and I'm here to address just my concerns as a mom and a concerned resident of Sahuarita for this hot mix asphalt plant. I wanted to address a pressing concern, the hot mix asphalt plant. It's not about placing blame, but safeguarding the community where I am raising my children. Here's what I've heard, or here are the concerns that have brought up to me. This plant could churn out about 400 tons per hour of hot asphalt, with estimates suggesting between 200 to 400 trucks leaving daily over through Old Nogales Highway to I-19. And these trucks are operated by independent contractors, and I wonder if they will have any responsibility or accountability, them being independent contractors as far as safety and tarping and all of that kind of stuff. The implications go beyond congestion, though, in the traffic. The emissions from such plants are known to exacerbate respiratory issues like asthma, particularly in children under 5. I know that when the winds kick up, my son, who is 6 years old, has asthma, and it gets really aggravated. So I can't imagine what that would be like with a hot mix asphalt plant also nearby. Moreover, the issue also is odor. We have a great soccer field right by across from Quail Creek, and I think the town of Sahuarita, the youth and the athletics department continues to grow, and so I think that is going to potentially impact our quality of life and outdoor activities. Beyond health concerns, though, also consider the potential negative impact on property values and the overall value of our town in the future. A facility like this could deter potential home buyers and investors, affecting not only our personal finances, but also the vibrancy and growth of Sahuarita for years to come, in which I would like my kids to grow up in, and I would like to raise my grandchildren here. Our children deserve clean air to play in, and our elderly residents shouldn't have to worry about their health being compromised. I may be an elderly resident here one day. We're not helpless. We can take action. Visit the Concerned Citizens website, engage on Facebook, and let's unite to protect our town. I would also like to invite any moms and women in our community that would like to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. Eva What Up is where you can find me. And I thank you, Town Council, you guys, and Mayor Murphy. You guys make this town a great place to live.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. Lisa Rosenberg, and then Jim Parco.
Good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak. I know we've heard a lot of different things in the past, things like cities and states that would not accept any of this going into their cities, especially right next to a residential neighborhood. And of course, we're all talking about health concerns. It's said a couple of times on here today. So why are we still here? So as the constituent for whom we've elected you guys into this, we don't want this plant. It's been pretty obvious from a lot of people that we don't want it here. We don't care if the city does not want to have, feel the need for an environmental study, but we want an environmental study. You should want an environmental study. The city should be concerned about the well-being of yourselves, of the people that live here and work here, that shop here and pay taxes here. All of this which helps pays your salaries. As an elected officials, you want to be able to be listening better. Less people will move here, property values will deflate. We've heard that a couple of times tonight. There have been fires and explosions at the other asphalt Vulcan plants, as well as other asphalt plants coming down the line. Salt River in April of '99 was a hazardous combustion that because of the rain right after that fire, it all ended up in the groundwater. And unfortunately, this is sitting above our groundwater. 2009 fire in Rochester, 2011 at the Clyde Henderson plant, 2013 2 oil storage tanks caught fire in Marana. You can Google it. There's lots of them on there. Those are the ones I just chose to highlight. So the other question is if there is a fire and we have that crossing and it happens to be a train right in front of that crossing, this is a problem. How are we going to be able to address that in the middle of a fire? What's going to happen to that? I'm sure that kind of doesn't meet fire code at some point. It took 10 years to work out the issue for Quail Creek. Thank you, we finally got a light, greatly appreciated, but it took 10 years. You're willing to put a high-risk plant in a residential area. That does not make sense. So many cities would not approve this, yet we're considering it. And it's just kind of like saying, go stand in the middle of the street. You might not get hit by a car, but you could. I've spoken to many who will move away. I've spoken to many who are not coming here to move, as I've talked to the different realtors that within my group. You're breaking down a town that is beautiful. Industrial plants at a residential neighborhood do not make sense and shouldn't even be considered. We're all saying no to the asphalt plant. Pick a better partner. There's lots of partners out there that could help this city grow. This is not the one. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Parco, and then Dave Roy.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor. Yeah, I need a little extra height here.
That's okay.
Yeah. My name is Jim Parco. My wife, Pam, and I have been together since we were 15 years old. And we have known about Sarita and Green Valley for 35 plus years because her parents moved here in 1988. And I was on active duty for a career, and we would come down here on leave. And we got to know this community very well. We got to see it grow from where it was in the 80s to where it is today. And I want to commend everybody on this council and all the councils before you. We've lived all over the world in the military, and we have seen so many towns. Everybody has the power to choose, but nobody can escape the necessity of choice. Life is about choices. Choices have consequences. We made the choice to invest a large part of our retirement savings, and we just recently purchased $1 million home in Quail Creek. We are on the far northwest corner. We will probably be one of the closest homes to this Vulcan plant if in fact it goes forward. We currently are still working. My wife teaches elementary school. I still work in Colorado where our grandkids are. We're looking forward to moving down here. We tell everybody about it. We want to get all of our friends down here. We're probably the youngest residents of Quail Creek. I just got over the line last year. We had some friends that we had encouraged, was a former college professor with me, and they decided to not come here a month ago because of this issue. We don't know how it's going to turn out. I look at your mission up there, the town of Sarita, and that last line says, you're basically balancing economic prosperity that creates outstanding quality of life for all. And I think everybody's done a great job up until this point. We have chosen to retire here because of the quality of life. And that is in no shortage due to the decisions this council and former councils have made to promote economic development. So it's a balance, and we get that. We're just one voice of many. But we have joined Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita, and we wanted to come down today. We still live in Colorado. We came down here specifically for me to talk for 3 minutes this week, since Pam was on spring break, to urge you to oppose. For people just like us, I can think of 1,000 reasons. I'll just mention one I haven't seen so far. 20 years plus on active duty. One of the things I had to deal with were a lot of my colleagues that had burn pit exposure in the Middle East. And, you know, it's a trigger for so many. And I spend a lot of time with the VA, and I spend a lot of time with the Wounded Warriors program. I can tell you, there are so many unintended consequences from any kind of negative smells, things like that. We don't know how this is going to turn out, but I can tell you, if Vulcan is wrong at all, this could be catastrophic. So with that said, I'll conclude my remarks. I thank all of you for doing this superb job you've done up to this point, but I cannot urge you strongly enough to please vote no on this petition.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I see Dave moving forward. The clock doesn't start till you get here, so no rush. No, that's okay.
Mayor Murphy, Council, thank you for giving me a few minutes here this afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. I want to talk a little bit about the culture here in the Santa Cruz Valley. And we've been here now 20 years, living in Quail Creek. We've enjoyed every minute of it. The weather, the temperature, all of the great cultural stuff that's available here for viewing. And I wanted to lay out just a few of these cultural setups. Number one, right fairly close to Sahuarita, and by the way, we're talking Sahuarita down to Tubac, but just fairly close to Sahuarita is a mission, and that mission is San Javier. It's been there a long time. Secondly, if you come south, a little closer to the river, there's another mission there, and that is the Tumacacori mission. And it is now a state historical and national historical structure. It is a church, and it's great. Moving further down, the next step would be a very beautiful natural area, and that is it's Madera Canyon. Great place to hike, great place to bird. One of the greatest places in the country to observe birds doing their thing. Secondly, or after Madera Canyon, we then can move down to Tubac, and Tubac is an art colony that has a tremendous display of fine art. A lot of it depicting the culture around here, the buildings, all the other things that are a part of this fine city. And I'll echo the thoughts of the other lady who was talking about it. Way to go to get us where we are. And so moving then to one thing about the art center. A lot of the artists that they have there, and I might have mentioned this, are local artists. The next consideration is the stockade that was built down there around probably 200 years ago, and that was to safeguard the people that are here.
I'm sorry, you'll have to just wrap up. The time's expired. But you can return next meeting. Thank you.
Anyway, we can't let this industry come in here and spoil our culture, our history, all of this. It's taken too long to develop, and it's too healthy, almost. It's so great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And let's all go outside and enjoy our weather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the call to the public cards I have. Does anybody else want to address the council? Seeing no movement, I will close the call public and move on to council and town manager brief summary of events. Councilman Bracco? Simon? Diane?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm delighted to report encouraging news from the restaurant attraction team, of which I'm a member.
No.
Myself, Victor Gonzalez, Alex, met with the owner of Borderlands, and he is the owner of a very successful brewery, microbrewery in Tucson. He's opening up 2 more, and he is interested in Sahuarita. So I am very excited that this may be on the horizon, and I want to thank Devin Stadler for jumping in and going on a tour with Alex and with Victor. S even brought his dog with him, and it was just awesome to see that synergy happen. And I'm saying great job and woohoo! I do see a brewery in our future and a microbrewery, and way to go.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Dr. Gillespie? Kara?
I just wanted to make an announcement of a new doctor in town.
No, I wonder
Just
who that
opened
is.
up his own business, and he didn't take the opportunity now, but Dr. Gillespie, who is a wonderful podiatrist in the community, has opened up his own business, his own practice here in the town of Sahuarita. We're just on the brink of it, I think. So if you're needing a great foot doctor, he is your man.
Thanks. We're growing our economic development right from the dais ourselves, so that's a good thing. Start off, there was a recent birthday to my left somewhere, just a couple of days ago, so happy birthday. I'd also like to thank Congressman Siscomani for keeping Campbell Road Extension in the appropriations, so that was signed by the president. So hopefully within the next, I don't have a timeline yet, but that'll be another positive development for that side of town coming out of Quail Creek and Madera Highlands. Also, congratulations to the Green Valley Council. There was a really successful First Responders Fair this last Saturday. Thanks to our PD for their representation down there. Fiesta Sahuarita is coming up in two Saturdays, April 6th, from 2 to 8 p.m. Also, this Wednesday, in 2 days, we're going to have the Man in the Maze ribbon cutting just south of Sahuarita Road down La Villita. That was a good partnership, great partnership with Freeport McMoran. And I had Fiesta. Oh, and then if you're still wanting to have something to do before 2 o'clock on April 6th, the Relay for Life will be taking part over at Rancho Resort.
Wow.
So a lot of activities coming up in our future. The next regularly scheduled meeting is April 8th, 2024. And with that, I will move to item number 8. I think I'll give Mr. Dillia a couple of minutes. I know we were sort of replacing the manager's report with our great employee recognition, but Mr. Dilly?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Once again, really thank you for joining Beth and I down on the floor to recognize our employees under this new employee recognition program. As you heard through the narrative of the nominations, there were just a lot of people recognized or nominated, and it was a really hard task to try to whittle it down to actual recipients. Bottom line is that we've got an amazing group of staff working for the city, providing services to our community and our residents. But thank you for taking time to do that. As you know, I take a lot of pride in providing the town manager's report. it would have to be something like this that would get me to shut up and not do a presentation for you tonight. You did get a copy of that in your inboxes before the weekend, and it's posted online. I would only add to the calendaring that just occurred, Mayor and Council, that we do have our DC lobbying trip coming up. That's April 9th through the 12th. The Mayor, Councilmember Morales will be accompanied by myself and Nathan Barrett, and we'll be on a very rigorous itinerary with Nexus Consulting in visiting all of our congressional delegation on a myriad of topics, all of which have been presented to you. Latest and greatest on that was the FUDS stuff, and so we'll be having that added to the agenda as well. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but then again, thank you for joining me down there in recognizing our staff.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it. Any comments, questions for Shane? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 9, Madam Clerk.
Presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding the 2024 legislative session.
Thank you. And Nathan Barrett, our management analyst, will present this item. Nathan, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I too will try to keep my comments fairly brief this evening. I'm only going to talk about 3 bills. I think I've whittled that down from 12 from earlier updates. But I'll also give you a quick update on the budget. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to call your attention to the legislative report that I've been putting into your packets. It's in there as a link. The link gets updated Thursday afternoon before council, so like 3 or 4 days ago, to make sure that that report has the most up-to-date information that I can possibly give you. It can be a lot of information, drinking from a fire hose. So a couple different ways to skim through that report, if that's what you'd like to do. There's a column there for town positions. I've color-coded that for your convenience. Red is oppose, green is support, black is neutral. Neutral will sometimes indicate a position on which the town may actually have an opinion, but we have not yet exerted that opinion or decided to spend political capital on that opinion. Another way to skim that report is to look through the bill status. I try to keep that fairly brief but descriptive. When a bill dies, I'll put that in red in that column. And as a reminder, dead bills are only mostly dead, which means they're partly alive. And then finally, I've outlined 3 milestones that a bill has to pass in each chamber of the legislature before it can be presented to the governor. That's greatly simplified. If you look up online how a bill becomes a law in Arizona, you're going to come up with a process that's 15, 20, 25 steps long. And I've condensed it into 6 steps. But that's one way that you can peruse that report and get a quick read on what's going on in the legislature. Without further ado, the 3 bills I've selected for highlighting tonight. HB 2719. This is our top priority. This is the bill that would invalidate in a bond election if there's not at least a 60% voter turnout. That's not passing with 60%. That's 60% of eligible voters coming out and voting one way or the other for or against that bond. This passed the House narrowly on a 31-28 vote. It passed from committee on March 4th, and I found out that it came out of Rules Committee, and that's today. Rules Committee is the last step before it is ready for a floor vote.
Nathan, can I interrupt you just
Yes.
for Mayor? Lisa, just on average, historically, what is our voter turnout here as a community? I just want to put it in perspective, what a 60% requirement really means for even a very active and engaged community like ours.
On average, 30 to 40% is what our turnout rate is. However, I believe within the history of the town, we've had one election where we would have met that 60% threshold.
Yes, in 2000.
And this year, we're celebrating our 30th birthday.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to put it into
And
perspective.
in 2000, we were probably closer to 2,000 residents, so that would have been probably much easier to have met that criteria.
I can tell you, having served in a number of communities, that to hear your clerk report that's actually quite high in terms of voter turnout. It's not unusual to have a 20-25% voter turnout, which is extremely unfortunate, but it is reality.
Thanks.
So as I said, killing this bill is our top priority. Karen Cruz is in Phoenix on the ground. She is circulating a position paper that we've drafted in the town manager's office. She's pulling out all the stops and doing whatever she can to peel off votes on the Senate floor. We have prepared a letter urging the governor to veto this bill, and we will deploy that letter if this bill actually makes it to the floor for a vote and is passed. But we are, as I said, coming for this bill guns a-blazing. SB 1056 was probably our second priority. This would require any increase in fees or taxes or assessments to be approved by a supermajority of the council. It did pass out of the Senate and then over to the House back on March 20th. I received word today, though, that this bill was the subject of a Stryker amendment. What that means is a lawmaker took this bill, stripped everything out of it, and then put their own new bill inside of 1056. And so now it bears no resemblance to the 1056 that passed out of the Senate. This bill is more than mostly dead, but not all the way dead. I will not put it past the ingenuity of our lawmakers to find some way to resurrect it if they really, really want to. But 1056, as we know it, is mostly dead. Speaking of mostly dead, about the most certain way you can kill a bill is through a veto by the governor. We are celebrating this veto, HB 2570. This is a bill that would have prohibited municipalities from setting standards on home design or establishing minimum lot sizes. This would have absolutely gutted local zoning ordinances and put them at the mercy of the state. It passed the House and the Senate on slim majorities, but those majorities did include members from both parties. That put a lot of pressure on the governor because she didn't have the sort of coverage that she would have on a uni-party passage of a bill. In Arizona, if a governor neither signs nor vetoes a bill within 5 days of its passage, the bill is considered passed. So the governor had 5 days or the bill would be automatically passed into law. On day 5 of this timeline, the governor came through with the veto and 2570 is now dead. So having said all that, a quick update on the budget. Karen, I don't believe was able to join us, but if there's a voice from the heavens here saying, I'm here, I'll let her speak. Otherwise, I will just continue. On the budget, the strategy continues to be delay. Hope springs eternal. Lawmakers and the governor are hoping that this next month will be the month that has improved revenue figures upon which they can base the next 12 months of budgeting. So there have been delays, waiting for that magic monthly report to tell them what the new numbers can be. We are in this circling of planes mode and waiting. The one issue that may come up as a budget negotiation chit is the ADOT continuation. You would think that would be a no-brainer. Of course, we want a Department of Transportation for the next 8 years, but this has become a bit of a political football as there have been discussions about what ADOT's proper role is when it comes to pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, rail infrastructure, etc. Whether ADOT should be involved with that or whether ADOT should limit themselves to roadways and highways. It hasn't yet come up in budget discussions, budget negotiations. You give us this, we'll give you that. But it is a live issue that could very well become a football in that budget discussion. So with that, I will yield the floor to any questions that the council might have about.
No, thanks. And I know you do a great job keeping us informed on an almost daily basis, so we appreciate that. Any questions for Nathan? Okay. Next, we move to item number 10, the consent agenda. And I'm going to ask that we pull for immediate consideration after the consent agenda for item C. Shane wanted to put a little more context with that particular item. So I'll be entertaining a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 10C, and I'll take that up right afterwards.
So moved.
All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, item number 10C.
Adoption of Resolution Number 2024-0774, authorizing the town to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Sahuarita Unified School District Number 30 to decommission the sewage lift station and install a gravity system to connect into the town's sewage collection system, commencing March 28, 2024, and terminating on December 31st, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $269,736.
Thank you. And Shane, I know there's a good story behind this, but I know you wanted to, for the sake of clarity, have a couple comments to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, conversations between Dr. Valenzuela and myself on this particular item have gone back nearly 2 years now, where we have, in joint venture with each other, sought to decommission the lift station out there, run a gravity-fed sewer line, rather than rely on that lift station, which historically has been a maintenance problem for the school district and an odor nuisance to neighboring residential properties. So in that, again, those conversations between the two of us have been about 2 years in the making. Last Thursday, the board acted on, the school board acted on an IGA with the town that was slightly different than the one that was included in your packet, still in line with the spirit of the agenda item that you were just read, with a not to exceed amount. However, I'm here tonight to let you know that we've actually brought more specificity to the actual dollar number in that partnership. The contract amount is $269,736. The school district's cost share portion of that is $160,000. It's not a budget issue. We've got that programmed in our budget, and with the school's partnership, we're actually being relieved a significant portion of that, of that cost. And so I think it's a good partnership. It shows our strength together, and I wanted to make sure that that was clarified. The resolution has been amended to reflect the $160,000 contribution amount by the school district, and the IGA that Mayor, you'll eventually sign if this is approved tonight, will also reflect those adjustments.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Shane? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-774.
So moved? Did you already make a motion? I'll second then.
Yes.
I
Second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, item number 11, please.
Public hearing and recommendation to the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control regarding an application for a Series 12 liquor license by Guitas 2, located at 100 West Duval Mine Road, number 110, Green Valley, Arizona, 85614, within the incorporated limits of the town of Sahuarita.
Thank you. And this requires, our award winner, Leah, will be presenting this item, and then after the presentation, if there's any questions, I'll open the public hearing, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Welcome, Leah.
Thanks. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Before you tonight is a Series 12 restaurant liquor license application that was submitted by Jose Luis Mesa for Guitas 2, located at 100 West Duval Mine Road, Green Valley, Arizona. Mr. Mesa has submitted a Series 12 restaurant license application, which is non-transferable, on sale retail privileges liquor license that allows the holder of the restaurant license to sell and serve all types of liquor solely for consumption on the premises of an establishment that derives at least 40% of its gross revenue from the sale of food. The required notice was posted for 20 days. The town received no comments on the issuance of the license. All fees have been paid, and the application was reviewed by town staff, and there were no objections to the issuance of the license. So this evening, we're asking council to make a recommendation of approval or disapproval of the license application to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Leah? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move to submit to the ADLLC a recommendation of approval.
Second, and any further discussion? I know the applicant's here. Jose's not here, but brother and mom is here, so thank you for coming. And before we toast microbrewery Borderlands, I'm going to come down there and we're going to get a margarita. So if the vote goes well. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. That's worth a clap. Madam Clerk, item number 12, please.
Presentation and discussion of the general obligation bond public improvement project, including an update on survey results.
Good evening. Mr. Gonzalez, our Economic Development and Public Affairs Director, will introduce the item, and survey results will be presented by New Point. And Steve, Victor, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We are here before you to present the results of our community survey specific to the general obligation bond. So with us is Steve and Mary from New Point.
Does this require a drum roll like the Employee Appreciation Awards? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
members of the council. Pleasure to be with you. As always, we'd like to unveil for you the results of our survey. This is a preliminary survey, and it's a survey, like all surveys, that is a slice of time. I'll talk a little bit about the methodology and then talk a little bit about the group that we surveyed, and then get into the results. And the point of this report is to give you as much information as we can at this date as to how the community is feeling about those projects that have been talked about by the council so far in terms of potential projects to be included in a bond package should you wish to go to the public and ask for bonding this year. We'll give you the results that as we've discovered them, but by no means is it the last word, and we have had a number of community meetings since the survey was completed, and we've asked those in attendance at those meetings to provide additional information to the mayor and council should they wish to about this package and about the bonding program in general. And I can tell you that for the most part, the comments have been positive, the ones subsequent to the survey, and we've had no indication so far of any organized or potential concern. However, we are always mindful that between now and November, many things can happen, and we want to be sure to let you know what we think the realistic possibilities are given this slice of public information. So, without further ado, the methodology was an online survey. We sent out postcards to every address in town, and our hope was that out of that solicitation, we would be able to get 1,000 responses. We felt that had we gotten 1,000 responses, we could have made pretty good recommendations to you about how the town was feeling. In fact, we got almost 2,000 responses, and we were delighted to have that many. It really is important to report to you that because of that level of response, we can give you a confidence level in the survey of 95%. What that means is if you replicated this survey 100 times, 95 times out of 100 you would get these results. And we feel very strongly that that's a really good reliability. With respect to a margin of error, anytime you see a percentage represented in this survey, we report a margin of error of 2.1% plus or minus. And for reliability purposes, we are comfortable recommending within a 5% plus or minus range. So we are double or half the amount that we would normally figure on a margin of error. Okay, the objectives of the survey were fourfold, and I want to just briefly talk about those. The first was to gauge residents' preferences on projects. We asked really two very important questions. Which of these projects are important to you, and which ones would be helpful in terms of getting you to vote yes for the package? Those are two questions that become very, very important responses as you go through your deliberations as to what to include and whether or not to do a bond. We also wanted to see what the likelihood was for voter approval. And I will remind you that on the two questions I just mentioned, that would be question 6 and question 7 in the survey, we have a rule of thumb. When we do these kinds of surveys, we like to see responses in the very important and important categories taken together of at least 60 to 62%. And the reason we do that is not because we're fearful of a state law that would require a supermajority for even taking the question at an election, but rather we know that from time to time there would be organized opposition to a bond package in communities, and we want to have enough variability in our people saying that they're important so that we can withstand any sort of opposition that should come up and still deliver 50 plus 1% on the bond package. So I'll keep those numbers in mind as we go through the results. The third thing that we wanted to do was to establish a baseline, and I want to emphasize this is only a baseline for the community's willingness to pay. One of the issues we had in the survey was, in a limited survey of this kind, we couldn't go into an awful lot of detail on each of the projects that was included. And what we know about willingness to pay versus price, the more you know about a project, the more you become invested in it. The more you see the details, the more you may find yourself in favor of it. So as we prepare both language for the ballot, if you should go forward, and any sort of materials that will go out to people in the way of public information on the bond package once approved by you, we want to be as detailed as we can be, but not so detailed as we get into a situation where we're either bait and switch with the public or not delivering something that the public is actually looking for. And so we'll be very careful about the material that we present going forward to make sure that we maintain that integrity with the public. The fourth thing is to compare any differences between voter responses in major neighborhoods. And it's a good thing we did this. We don't have exact figures with respect to what percentage of the population in the town lives in each neighborhood. We have approximations. But it was interesting to note that roughly half of the responses came from Rancho Sahuarita. And a significant number also came from Quail Creek. And there were other neighborhoods, and you'll see the graph in a moment, that followed behind those. And because there were large numbers in both of those neighborhoods, we'll show you how the overall population compared with what came out of those neighborhoods in particular. I think you'll find a high degree of congruence on projects and project support. We're very happy about that because we believe those two neighborhoods are very much in line with those who vote and those who will continue to vote in this community. So, without further ado, let's dive into the numbers and see what we've got. The first thing I want to do is sort of define the population for you. We asked a number of questions that related to demographics and where people lived. And what you'll see in this first graph is just that the population has been here for quite some time. The two cohorts that were the largest, people 2 to 5 years in residence and 11 to 20 years in residence. And so we're really excited about this insofar as these are people who have seen the town grow. One of the things we've done when we go out and make presentations is we talk about the phenomenal growth that the town has enjoyed over the 15 years or the 30 years that it's been in existence. And we want to be sure that people understand that that growth should be developed and continue as we go forward so that decisions made now affecting people in the future in a positive way. So 94% of the respondents are homeowners. Again, another positive sign. That means they're invested in the community long-term and with the largest investment they will make in their lifetimes. This is important because it means they will be defending property values. And part of what this package is designed to do on behalf of the community is to preserve lifestyle and property values as you go forward. That's a very important piece of any bond package. We almost ran out of colors, but because there are so many neighborhoods, we managed to give you kind of a spread chart of where the respondents came from. And of course, some of them were fairly minuscule in terms of the number of responses. But by the same token, if you'll see that Rancho was again about 50%. The Madera Highlands was a significant chunk, and Quail Creek. All three of them were significant responders to the survey, and we're delighted that they were. And I'll show you what that means in just a moment. By the way, if there are any questions along the way, please stop me, and we'll go into any detail that you may wish. So then we wanted to make sure that we had a good spread on gender and age to make sure that we were also representing the community. And so the gender breakdown, again, females generally tend to respond to these kinds of surveys a little more than men do. It's just the way things work out. But it's typical that that's the case. And we had a nice spread in terms of age, all ages were represented other than 18 to 24. Again, typically, we don't get a lot of responses from 18 to 24. And given the economics of the town, you wouldn't have a number of 18 and 24-year-olds who either aren't living with parents. We did have a couple of people tell us that they were in multi-generational households and that somebody took the survey. They didn't know who, but somebody in the household did respond. So this is, again, something that we look at and see happens often. With respect to race and ethnicity, this is fairly reflective of the community in general, although, again, certain groups are less responsive to this kind of a survey, even though we did have both an English and Spanish version available. And anyone who wished to take the survey in the second language was perfectly willing to do so. But we think this breakdown, again, is representative of the community in many ways. With respect to children at home, this was the response. About half the community said that they have dependent children. The other half of the community, and again, because some of the subdivisions in the community are age-appropriate subdivisions where you have to be 55 or older to have a home there, odds are that you don't have children in the home unless they are returnees, which happens on occasion. And so this breakdown was not a surprise either. Education and income. This is a generally affluent community, and it is also a community with a fairly high degree of post-secondary education, as reflected by those who took the survey. So we also feel good about the fact that this is very representative of the people who live here and the people who are engaged in activities within the community as you see them during council meetings and as you move about the community. This too was extremely important. The education attainment was fairly high, and we think it's representative of who Sahuarita really is. Okay. We also asked about how people get information, and you'll see this waterfall effect with the most effective means of communication on top, going down to the ones that are less effective. This becomes important as we go out between now and November, should you decide to go to the ballot and communicate with people in ways that we believe they can get the information. We'll be using this information as a means of determining how we communicate with the public about the package as it moves forward, if it moves forward. We've made no representation, by the way, that this is a done deal and it's not cooked. We have given people the information that the council has more work to do with respect to deciding not only whether or not to put a bond on the ballot, but how much that bond would be for and which projects would be included. Those are things that are yet to be determined and will be determined by the council by the deadline set by the county. And then we asked about voting behavior, because that becomes important as well. Remember, this is a survey that was designed to go to the voter, people who were registered voters and were able to vote and were likely to vote. They're the answer to the question, who do we want to talk to? People who will show up in November and make a choice. Let me stop here and say that we believe, unfortunately, that this ballot is going to be a very lengthy and very detailed ballot. And we know that there may be as many as a dozen either initiative or referenda on the ballot, in addition to any local issues that you might decide to add to that. So we have all of the offices that are up, president on down, plus those initiatives and referenda, should they make the ballot, and most of them seem like they will. And then the local issues are at the bottom of the ballot. So we wanted to also, as part of our information, ensure people that while it may be more difficult than usual to finish a ballot, some of the good stuff's at the bottom, and they need to get to the bottom of the ballot and help us as well. So, that was the appetizer. Now the main course. This is what we found, and this is what I think will help you in your deliberations as you go forward. So question 6, which was the first question we asked, was we asked question relative to the projects that are included. And we asked people to rank them in their own personal importance. And so when anybody said that any project was either very important or somewhat important, we combined those two, and then any other answer went on the other side of the scale. What you'll see is an awful lot of blue. It starts out with the multi-generational,
I think it's the police department.
pardon me, starts out with the police department, as it should. Sorry, Chief. We know from the surveys that we have done time and again that Sahuarita Police Department is very highly thought of, and it is reflected here as well. Frankly, what we call the infrastructure projects are the ones that weren't tied to Parks and Recreation. We thought might be lower in the scheme of things, but as it turned out, they weren't. They were very well thought of. And so the top 3 were the police expansion, the rec center, and then the trails development. But if you'll go down the list, you will notice that all the way down to the pistol range, above 50% in that category. Short of the 62, but positive nonetheless. The only project that didn't make the 50% threshold was the dog park.
I want to recount.
And if you look at the numbers in Quail Creek, again, police expansion number 1, public works, the other infrastructure project that was one of the others that was on the list was number 2, and trails development number 3. The rec center was number 6, and the explanation for that is fairly simple. Because Quail Creek is a newer community, it has infrastructure already there that people are paying for, and unlike Rancho, which may have infrastructure that is oversubscribed, and they may be interested in additional opportunities for recreation, Quail Creek is still in that phase where they still have enough or more facilities for the public to make use of. So we understand the difference, but it wasn't significant in terms of the overall responses. Rancho, of course, was rec center number 1, trails number 2, and the police department number 3. Again, very consistent all the way through. The next question we asked was, based on these projects, if one of these was included in the package, how would it affect your likelihood to vote in favor of the package? And again, we've got this kind of a waterfall effect.
Well, that's the same one. Yep.
Starting again with the rec center and going down the list, the top 3, rec center, police expansion, and trails, again, being the most popular in terms of the package. And then if you go to Quail Creek, it's police, public works, and trails. And in Rancho, rec center again, police expansion, and trails. So we know we have an outdoor community. We know they like the trail system. They'd love to improve it. That's part of the package that we're talking about. But again, all of the projects, except at the bottom, are above 50%. We like to see that because it gives you maximum flexibility in terms of which projects you might choose to include. There really aren't any, I'm not going to use the term. I was going to say there really aren't any dogs in this list, but that wouldn't be proper. So I'm not going to say that. But the dogs that are on the list are quite happy with the dog parks they already have, apparently. So that's the only one that didn't fare as well. But I know there's a constituency in town that is very, very interested in expanding that particular amenity. So having said what I said, I believe that there is a group that will be supportive of that as well, should it make the package. So we then went into detail on the rec center, and the reason we did that is because it's going to be the single largest project in the package, regardless of whatever else is included, and it could range in services and amenities widely. So we wanted to get some sense from the public as to which ones they felt were most important in a rec center that would be offered as a public improvement. And those are the next questions we asked. In terms of recreation, sport courts for additional court play, turf sports, and dance classes were the top three. But if you look at this waterfall list, quite honestly, virtually all of them are things that you might expect to find in most recreation centers. There weren't too many oddities that would suggest that a well-designed center, which would have a lot of room for a variety of sports, a variety of meeting space, and crafts and other things, which most rec centers have, would fall into this category, and almost everything would be represented. Where you get a little outside is if you're going to go heavy into the crafts business, you may find you have to buy a kiln now and then, or a few things that will help somebody with certain craft work that they may want to do in the center. But again, we felt that the cluster of services that were being asked for were well within the ability of the town to design and deliver a rec center that would be very popular. With respect to hobbies and special interests, here you've got craft classes, you've got cooking classes. Again, the suggestion is a full kitchen would probably be, or a demonstration kitchen would be something that might be included in the package if it were put together. But again, most of these are what you would call bread and butter items in most recreation centers. Where it diverges, if at all, and we'll get there in a minute, is where you do and how you do aquatics, because that is a huge impact on your budget and bottom line. The next one is fitness. And we believe that fitness in a town like Sahuarita continues to be extremely important, as determined by an indoor walking and jogging track, weight training, and cardio facilities. Again, fairly typical fare for a recreation center to have these kinds of amenities in it and room for this to occur. Whether it's a second-story walking track, as you might find at Udall Park, or whether it's designed into the main floor of the center, where you've got a circumference that you're working on for jogging and walking. Either one is potentially available and within what we would consider budgetary limitations. And then finally, we asked about water. And we said, what kind of pool work do you want? And what we found was that, again, where you have, some people would like to have just a pool that is available generally for pool play, for children, for general activities that would be around the pool. We didn't find so much that people were worried about lap swimming. And quite honestly, lap swimming and fun pools don't work very well together. If you either have to do one intentionally or you're not going to be successful doing both. But here they're talking about swimming and safety classes, teaching people how to swim and water safety in general and then also water aerobics or the kinds of classes that a regular pool could be scheduled to enjoy. So here again, we think that there's plenty of room to provide the kind of pool that people will want and will resonate with them if they see it on the ballot. So this is qualitatively all of the questions we asked about the package. Then we tried to ask some questions about what are you willing to pay for? Always a good question. If everybody would like a big package and they'd like it to be free, we understand that. So what I asked the gang to do, and I don't have this up there to show you, but I'm hoping you can see it from here. I asked them to do a scattergram of every respondent that we had and where it plotted on all of the numbers that we gave them. And this is what we got.
All over the map.
All over the map. So in order to be helpful to you, we made some adjustments, which I hope you'll understand and appreciate. The first thing we did is, of the 1,950 responses that we got, there were only 160, give or take, that did not want to pay anything. And we know who they are. No, I'm kidding. We don't know who they are, but quite honestly, we actually do know where they live. And we don't have to get into that right now, but we understand that where those sentiments may lie. I think a lot of that was due to the fact that we were only giving them thumbnails of the projects. Because what we know to be true about the willingness of a population to pay for an amenity and the cost that it requires to do that activity is that brand becomes very important. So the brand here is the town offering the amenity. You're trusted, so that's helpful. The amenity itself becomes important. If it's something they can't do otherwise or can't do easily otherwise, that becomes more important to them. And every time they get something that they want, that range of what they'll pay for goes up a little bit. So to give you an idea of where people are based on taking the scattergram and making it readable, this is what we did. We eliminated the people who said nothing. The bottom graph shows people who were willing to pay anything up to $10 a month. $10 a month, every month on their secondary property tax. Above that is up to $20 a month. Above that, up to $30 a month, and then $40 a month. And what you will find is those graphs basically split 50% on the bottom and 50% above the bottom. But here's where it gets interesting. If we put in a bond package of $45, $50, $55, or $60 million, and I have no idea what you're contemplating, but we just took a shot at something that was middle of the road, if you will, as a total package, just to give you an idea of where that would land. Those four bond packages were somewhere between $14.40 and $19 a month for those four increments of bonds. We got these numbers from AC. If they're wrong, it's AC's fault.
That's right.
No, he was very helpful, and the numbers are right. I think we did the math correctly, AC. And so my point is, all four of those increments, should those be numbers you might consider, are well within the ability of a lot of people to pay. And as we become more specific about those projects, we're going to move a number of people from that lower 50% up into the range where these numbers are absolutely doable.
And that's well within, I know you've presented before, because I've been there, Steve, that's well within our bonding capacity.
Bonding capacity is about 130 million overall, and so we kind of figured around a midpoint that we'd do some looking. And again, by no means am I recommending a number, not my job. But I just wanted to give you where some representative numbers might fall in this configuration. So, what do we take away from the survey that was done? The first thing is that most respondents are likely to favor a rec center, police expansion, and trails development if those 3 projects are included in the package. Second, all the projects, with the exception of the dog park, were above 50% accepted in all of the surveys, and it means that, again, if you wanted to include all 9 projects, if there were budget enough to do it, it would be a package that would be highly popular with the public. More easily sold than other projects where you would have some things that had to tag along. Even the infrastructure projects were thought of quite well in many of the neighborhoods. Quail Creek, for example, was particularly interested in the public improvements.
Public Works.
Public Works project. Don't know why, but they were. The third thing that we think we gleaned from the survey is that there's a wide range of what people said they would pay, and the more that we told them about detail, the more we believe they will be fans of the package as it's presented. We're finishing the work now on virtually all of the project budgets, so that the next time we speak with you, we should have numbers for everything, which will give you an idea of how to add them up and figure out where you are in terms of your appetite to go forward with a bond at some level and which projects ought to be included. Clearly, those are things that are totally up to you. We want to give you as much information as we can to help you make that decision, but that's a decision that only you can make, and we're delighted to move forward with whatever decision that is. We now know that we will probably need to do at least one more, what I would call brush fire survey, closer to the election to see how we're doing in providing public information about the projects. But my expectation would be that that brush fire will show improvement in those willing to pay, and it will provide probably continued strength in the support of the projects that we've already outlined. With that, I'm pretty much done.
Okay. Diane?
Did all questions pertaining to the rec center include the pool?
There was a separate question about the rec center, including the pool.
And how did that fare? In
Well,
your opinion, as far as
I showed you
saw
that.
the
I wasn't
aquatics.
clear on how to interpret it. How important is the pool to our constituents?
Well, we asked the question specifically because our expectation was that a water feature of some sort was going to be important.
Okay.
And so the issue was what kind and how much, not a yes/no on water feature.
Okay.
So we assumed that a water feature would be part of a recreation center development.
Did it also, did you ever segment indoor pool yet, or outdoor pool, or kind of where that
We actually
fell?
went around the edges on that one, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, and the reason we did that is there's an enormous cost difference between the two. What we didn't want to do is get people set on something that you couldn't deliver.
Right.
And rather than do that, we tried to ask, what kinds of activities would you like? And if the activities required an indoor-outdoor kind of setup, then we'd know that. But what we found on the pool issue was that most everything that they wanted could be done either
Right.
outdoor or indoor if you had sufficient shading
Right.
for an outdoor pool.
Great. Diane, do you have another question?
Yes, so in terms of how much money the residents were willing to pay for services, do you have anything to compare it to when we're not such an inflationary time like we are now, and money's tight for so many people?
Mr. Mayor, council member, I'd be making something up if I gave you an answer, and the reason that is because every community is different. Every resident group is different in terms of their ability to pay. And what we were trying to gauge in this one is not so much the ability to pay, because if you look at the demographics of the community, this community is able to pay the $40 a month quite easily if they wanted to. That doesn't mean that they aren't already paying a substantial amount to their own HOA for the kinds of amenities they're already enjoying, and we understand that. But the fact of the matter is that the demographics would suggest that it wouldn't be a hardship on the community at the higher levels. There is a huge relationship between willingness to pay anything and how badly you want the amenity that's in question. And so when we lead with something as popular as the rec center and as popular as the improvements to the police department and as popular as extension of the trails system, we are capturing an awful lot of people who have an awful lot of stake in that particular package. And we believe that as we move toward development of specifics, like where those things are going to be located, how much we can do based on the budgets that are available and so on, they will become very, very invested in those projects before they're able to vote.
Thank you. Shane, did you just want to give us a little, like, next steps and when we really need to be, as a refresher, at the ballot with the ballot language and all of that, and when we think we'll see the cost estimates for the various projects?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good feel on the cost estimate side.
Okay.
You know, we've been working a long time to create the narrative behind each of these projects and the need behind them. I actually will turn your question back over to Steve in terms of a timeline, but I know that this was a critical junction in the process because we had the survey out there. We wanted to get the survey results back to you and identify next steps, i.e. the focus group discussion, Steve, and further development of maybe some graphical graphical depictions of
boards.
some of these types of amenities.
Right.
Again, sensitive not to lock us into something we can't deliver on, but to give a bit of a picture or an image to some of these projects. So we're working on all of that. But before we get back out in front of the public on on these projects
Right.
going forward, we needed to have this check-in with you tonight.
Sure. If
On
we-
the results of the survey.
Yeah, if all the bar graphs on the willingness to pay or how much all were underwater, it might be a different discussion, right? As opposed to this.
Absolutely, and I'm expecting questions like Councilmember Priolo put forward, a little bit finer detail on these projects and the desires, I think might be some information that Steve and his team are able to glean through the focus groups.
Right.
But Steve, please.
Thank you. Shane, we're contemplating a couple of focus groups to dig down into some of these questions and get more qualitative answers. As you know, focus groups will give you qualitative information. The survey does quantitative information, so we've got the large numbers out of the way. One of the things that I was, interested in hearing tonight, and only because it's an opportunity to be in front of the council, which we don't get that many opportunities, and I appreciate your time and your schedule. We're still collecting information, and we're collecting information on all of the projects that we perceive are still in the package. They're in the running. If you were to say tonight, one or two of those projects are no longer in the running, that would help us. That would give us more focus on the things that we need to concentrate on. If, on the other hand, you're still interested in more information coming in and you're comfortable with the 9 that are currently there, we're perfectly fine to go forward and drill down into some of those issues to make sure that we give you as much information that as we possibly can before you have to make a final decision on in or out.
Yeah, my personal preference, because they're already on there, and some scored obviously higher than others. But when it comes to capacity, one might break the bank, at a higher level, and where we maybe wanted to, I'm just making this up, but maybe where we wanted to do number 5, that would break sort of the bank, so to speak. But if we went to 7, maybe we could weave that in there. So my own personal preference would be, I think it's worth the exercise, but whatever my colleagues thinks, it would be good to hear too. What's that?
are you talking about kind of breaking down costs? So we say,
Yes.
hey, look, at this unpopular dog park, but if it only costs this much.
That I think is really popular, but I don't know. I didn't.
No,
we
we
could
have
squeeze it
that
in.
wong. It's a people park, so the dogs can bring their owners to do.
Owners there, right? You should
socialize.
have renamed it a people park, absolutely.
But saying, hey, look, this smaller cost versus maybe this bigger cost, yeah.
Right.
I
So-
understand, but I guess.
So just having that ability to know the cost breakdown, unless it's, because I know the staff's been doing a lot of work on it anyways, on any of the 9, I guess I'd hate to punt it this time, but it's up to everybody else to, I'd like to see it. What do you think, Shane?
Well,
You can disagree with me, that's okay.
Mayor, if I just put what I heard from Steve a little differently, the exercise is going to be the exercise, and at some point you're going to be asked the question: do you want to forward a question to the ballot?
Right.
And there's going to be a finite
Capacity.
and you're going to have a list of projects. We already have general rough estimates in terms of what these projects are going to cost us. They're not designed, and so, those projects are those costs are just estimates. But at some point in time, you're going to have to make a decision. And one of those decisions might be, we're going to scale down the size of some of the scopes of these projects so that we can get all 9 in, or you're gonna have to
Make a cut.
make a hard decision. And I think what I heard is, it might help the process if some of that can happen, sooner and as you go down. So at the end of the day, the exercise is going to be at your feet for the taking. So.
Yeah, I understand.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just elaborate for one
Yes.
second. The manager's correct, and what I meant by what I said earlier was, we've tried very, very hard to do a couple of things with the public. First of all, we've tried very hard not to promise anything
Right.
specific, because none of these projects, I shouldn't say none, some of them, like the police department expansion, has a lot of work already done on it, and if
Right.
somebody wanted to know what square footage and other things, we could probably give it to them. But with respect to the recreation projects in particular, if I mention the number of pickleball courts, I might be wrong.
Right.
So instead of saying there'll be X number of pickleball courts, we've started talking about expansion of pickleball courts or court facilities. And as we get more tightly down to budgets, we can make determinations as to how many we can afford in the package, but to be able to deliver whatever we say is in the package. And that's where the final decisions of the mayor and council will be made.
Bill?
Yeah, at some point, there's several ways to play with this. At some point, if we choose, this is the upper bound for our bond request.
Right.
And then how many things can we stick underneath that? Otherwise, you just put everything together and say, now the bond's this high.
Right.
And then it becomes less realistic. So, I think we've got to look at what's our tolerance for pain.
Right.
And then figure out how much we can put underneath that.
Right. Yeah, and I think, were you or colleagues okay with at least looking at the, because it was, in $5 million increments, it certainly seemed like 60 would have been the highest, I would say, recommendation, 60 million, which would have been at the $30 range. I don't know if everybody, wants to weigh in. And a little bit, I think, is the cart before the horse, because if it's 60, but we don't know what the price of everything is there a tolerance there
Yeah,
or not?
And we may need to bring it to 65 to get something else in. Yeah.
Right.
But we should have an idea of where we want to play.
Right.
What neighborhood.
Right. Diane?
I am remembering some of the cost of some of those projects, and $60 million is not much money at all.
Right.
So I guess my question to you, Steve, maybe you answered it and I didn't hear it, but in any of this, can you give us an idea of what the mood of the public is for how large a bond?
That's what they're paying.
Right.
Well,
No, but
to answer your question, this is a hint.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's no more than a hint. I don't want to sell this as anything more than a first impression of what we told them was in the package very, very briefly on the survey. When the package becomes more defined, we want to do another ask of the public to make sure that we're not outside the bounds of what they're willing to pay. But remember what I said about willingness to pay versus price, and when you make that decision is when you know more about the project.
Right.
I can tell you that we could use an awful lot of the bonding capacity of the town to build an incredible rec center. But would that be the wise thing to do? And would it be the only project you would do? And those are all questions that you have to determine. If you are of a mind to look at all of the projects there, then I think that Councilmember Bracco is correct. At some point, you have a tolerance level beyond which you're not going to be able to go for you as a council. But I think that all of these numbers in the middle are, from what we see in the public's response, doable numbers.
Right.
Now, I don't know how far up it goes because
Right.
we haven't asked that question.
But I could see where, you know, a lot of the 50% moves to 30, some of the 30% moves, you know, to the $21 to $30, but I personally think that's more than a hint. I think that's a pretty good, I know if you identify specifics to the projects, maybe you could inch that up a little bit, but to me, it sure feels like, you know, the $20 is a pretty good sense.
And Mr.
of
Mayor,
what's acceptable.
Mr. Mayor, the plan going forward is to, right now, we didn't even have pictures, right? Right now, it was just a survey that we put out. As we develop this along, we're going to develop messaging and images and
Marketing
and
brochures.
the idea is that as people start to visualize what this really is, the thought is that, just like you said, some of that bottom bracket is going to say, "Whoa, well, okay, yeah, I'm there, and I'm going," and it's going to have a kind of an upward movement, but we're not there yet.
Right. But I still don't think you're going to see a $130 million approval either.
Oh, no.
Right.
So you've got to figure out what that sweet spot is.
But I think that's why these lines are where they're at, because we believe that sweet spot is going to be in that 30% area right there, where as we develop messaging, somewhere in that area is probably
Yes.
where. Now, remember that we've also planned to set aside about $10 million of our own general fund capacity to put on top of this package, so that, you know, we're messaging to our community.
Right, we have skin in the
that,
game.
that we are a partner in making all this happen.
Right.
And please be assured that when we go out and talk to people, they don't see these numbers, nor do we suggest them. We do not suggest any number that they should be talking to the council about. That's your decision. We're just trying to figure out if there is a pinch point that we can tell you about.
Right.
And so far, we haven't found one that is a red flag that we would share with you quite yet. We want to do more in-depth talking with people who are willing to pay to find out if that exists, and we'd share it with you as soon as we know. But when we go out and talk to people, we make absolutely no reference to the amount of the bond that will be approved. None. That's your decision.
Right, okay, thanks. All right. Think we're good. I appreciate all the hard work.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mary, and
Members of the
everybody
council, thank
put
you very
into
much.
it. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 13.
Presentation, discussion, and possible approval of Economic Development Master Plan.
Thank you, and Victor Gonzalez has been busy, our Economic Development Public Affairs Director. And the plan will be presented by Tip Strategies. Victor.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before I ask John Roberts, who is with Tip Strategies, to present, I just want to take a minute or two to do a little self-reflection. Back in 2016, the council adopted what was the Economic Development Blueprint at the time. And, you know, one of the things that for us, we really pride ourselves in the planning that we take as an organization. I can think about the strategic management plan that we have, but also the economic development plan, most importantly, right? The old saying of fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I think it's more so true with economic development. So when I think about the 2016 plan, several things were identified in that plan that I think we can look back and feel very proud about what we accomplished. For example, the 2016 plan talked about nurturing the growth of small businesses. And over the last 5-6 years since then, we've dedicated ourselves to developing programming for entrepreneurs, and we now have a very successful Growing Sahuarita program. We also, in that 2016 plan, identified the need to facilitate economic development, so the capacity to facilitate. So for me, what comes to mind is projects like the crossings and the tremendous work that required not only to bring that project to fruition, but also staff and the planning department to be able to deliver that project on the review and permitting side in time to meet the times that the Wadsworth Development Group had. We also identified in 2016 strengthening relationships with industry and employers. I think we've done an excellent job. But one of the things that really stands out from that 2016 plan is it identified invest and strengthen present and future employers and business center. And out of that, what came out? Samtec. Right? We made that investment, and now we're at a greater place because we've been able to attract Power Photonic and ATAG. And that 2016 plan identified also Elevate Sahuarita's identity. And I think we've done that. I think as we go throughout the state of Arizona, we can speak to Sahuarita, and folks recognize Sahuarita and see the great work and the great community that we have. So needless to say, as you can tell, I'm excited about our next phase of the economic development plan, which Mr. John Roberts is going to present, because this plan is not only going to build upon that, but it's going to really focus on 3 elements to it. It's going to focus on how we continue to invest in people, prosperity, and place. So I'm proud to have this presentation tonight, Mr. Roberts, to walk us through the economic development plan and your approval of this plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Councilman.
Welcome.
Council members, thank you so much for the opportunity. And behind you are the words that are in your mission statement, dedicated to economic prosperity. So I think in what you're going to see here is an answer to the question of what generates economic prosperity. I should be done by midnight with time for questions after that.
We usually go to 1. We're good.
So give you a sense of how we approach this. Let me say that it's been a privilege to work here, first of all. And as Victor and his team knows, we are committed to vision, first and foremost, a vision for economic development. And in that context, I have to say Sahuarita is an exceptional community. We have the privilege of working all over the country. We've been at this now going on 30 years. We're the largest remaining independently owned economic development firm in the country, based in Austin, Texas, but we're all over the country. We have people in presenting final plans in Baltimore, Miami, Richmond on the East Coast, all across Texas, and in the West as well. This was the team that worked with Victor and his team. And in order to make a plan like this work, 3 things are essential inputs. Number 1, we have to know what the data say. And often there's a disconnect between what people get from the data and what their own view of the community is. And you may be right and the data may be wrong, but remember that when site selectors or potential residents are looking, they go to the data first. So we have to know and understand that data. And then beyond the data, we have to know what you say. That's critically important. And you heard that just now in the discussion of a potential bond package. And then thirdly is our view from the communities worked in. And we have worked in more suburban communities than any economic development firm in the country. So our goal really was to provide focus and action for the town of Sahuarita and the team that is working on economic development. The stakeholder engagement was a significant part of the process. It had to be. And this is just a glance at just how extensive that was. We met with all the major businesses. We met with countless individuals. We had numerous trips here. And the second point I made is about the data. And we've given the tools to Victor and his team that allow a fairly easily updatable and interactive approach to it. And I just wanted a couple of highlights. We looked at age distribution, and we looked at commuter overview. We had to get a sense of the flow of people coming in and out of the community. And we had to look at the innovation network. So we did this kind of intriguing to us look at where the funding sources for the innovative companies in Sahuarita and the region are, so that we can follow the money for these. Again, with the idea that economic prosperity is the outcome here. And I don't have to tell you that innovative industries are really the drivers of economic development now. We looked at retail, and I'll digress very quickly here for a moment and say I'm not spending the night here, but it's not because I don't want to spend the night here. So when we get into the details of the plan, you'll see that we really dug down, and Victor's already working on presenting a package for potential hotel site and location here. Though that's low-hanging fruit for economic development. So what does the plan say? What is this all about? And I really would like to reserve time for Q&A and go over this fairly quickly. But the report itself is readily available to you, and the detail in it is, I think, helpful as well. So we had guiding principles. I think any plan like this has to operate on guiding principles. And the identity of the community is really important. Because if you're just driving down the interstate, you don't know what Sahuarita is. You don't even know at your first stop at the Starbucks what Sahuarita is. It's not until you drive around that you realize that this community could be doubling in population in less than 20 years. That's no exaggeration. And again, on the identity point, and it's related obviously to growth and to the regional status, this vision for Sahuarita as the prime, and we use the word suburb now, but we'll soon be beyond suburb. I think it's entirely possible for Sahuarita to attain a significance in relation to Tucson that no one else in the region can even come close to. Wow. This is a huge opportunity, and to us, exciting one. So the framework of the plan, the 3 Ps, which is what we call the plan. People, prosperity, and place. Now, in the old days, if you asked me what economic development is, you would get a kind of a typical answer. You turn land into jobs. That's kind of the shortest way of saying what economic development is. But it's not very helpful, because we don't need jobs as much as we need prosperity. And prosperity that's widely attainable. And when I say we don't need jobs, I know that the governor and every elected official, from the president down, forgive me, to mayors, love to say we've created X number of jobs. But job creation is not this country's challenge. It's not your challenge. Talent is your challenge. People to fill the jobs is the challenge. And the new wave of jobs, the talent for that, skills for that. And that's why prosperity is the second P. And finally, place. And everything that you heard regarding the bond package, future planning, the work that Victor is already looking at, is place-oriented. People choose place. And to a remarkable degree, post-pandemic, they choose place over job because they can work remotely. Now, it's obviously not true if you're harvesting pecans. But it is true for all of your higher wage jobs. So what's in the plan? And I'll, again, highlight just a few things. So under the people notion here, is to create a dynamic workforce. Now, let me be a little bit critical. Our biggest concern coming into Sahuarita is that you might default to a retirement community. From an economic development standpoint, that is not a desirable outcome. It can't be a desirable outcome because that's not your workforce of the future. And the baby boom, as you know, that generation I represent, is on its way out. And we have to be realistic about that. Retirement is a real thing. And when that wave finally crashes, which it's in the process of doing, by the way, then a community that is totally reliant on retirement is not going to be a vibrant community.
But,
Yes, sir.
but they're also the biggest holders of wealth, this history of this country.
They are the biggest, and they're also transferring that wealth. And thank you for that, Councilman, because that transfer of wealth is happening now.
Yeah.
You're doing it, I'm doing it. And then anchoring that next gen is critical to every successful community. Those that can hold them and hold that wealth will succeed. It's an excellent point. So just to pick one of these strategies here, training at the community college level has never been more important. We all are having doubts about the four-year college education. You're not alone in this. To a remarkable degree, the community colleges are filling that gap. So the opening of so we're ambitious. This is an ambitious plan. Is it feasible to think about BCC opening a campus here in Sahuarita? The answer is yes. And we've worked in enough communities where that is happening. It's happening outside of Madison, Wisconsin. It's happening outside. When we did this for Round Rock, Texas, outside of Austin, and we proposed a higher education center, no one thought that was feasible. They said, you can't be real, you can't be serious. You can't be serious that 40,000 students at the University of Texas justifies a campus in Round Rock, but not everyone can go to the University of Texas. And it's been wildly successful. So that's just one example. And then looking at, and each of these builds that out, this way of looking at what the college can provide linked to your own industries, I think will make a compelling argument. Goal 2 is prosperity. And here we're looking at the more traditional economic development activities, leveraging existing assets and high-tech innovation-centric industries like aerospace and photonics. Economic developers like to talk about clusters. Excuse me while I get some water. And that cluster discussion is not always realistic. Clusters are industries that are pursuing similar goals, similar supply chains. It's remarkable that you have the makings of two very strong clusters here. So the filling in of the gaps of those clusters and linking them, again, is possible for you. And to use one example of how that, let me back up here. One example of how that can build out is in aerospace and photonics specifically. It's not quite a coincidence, but a happy confluence, if you will, that one of U of A's strongest technical programs is around optics. So your ability to attract other companies along those same lines is very realistic. And that can take an international. And that's something that is already being worked on. Something that, and I don't think I'm giving anything away, that have potential European visitations here. And then the third is goal is place and place making. And let's just look at one of these here, is positioning Sahuarita for accelerated long-term growth. Population of upwards of 100,000, and that within less than a generation. This is entirely realistic. And again, we went into the weeds in a lot of areas of town. And from what may eventually happen with thousands of acres of what is essentially ag land now. Will it stay ag? We don't know. But it's likely that it won't. And when it flips, which I think it will, then those development opportunities are nothing less than extraordinary. You could see an explosion of growth in this town. And again, that's where the fork in the road is between the more traditional retirement community and a much more vibrant, dynamic community. And I would say, and I think I'm qualified to say that the retiree is increasingly welcoming of a more diverse generational mix than was true even as little as 10 years ago. And I welcome the discussion about that because that's important to us, and we don't have the answer to that, obviously. It's speculative. But I think it's very realistic to say that it is desirable for an older generation to have more of a mix than it has been in the past. The exception to that, of course, is Florida, and where we do a lot of work and where the walling off of communities from multi-generational is still the norm. I don't think that's the future. So as an example of that future growth, let me back up here for a second. These are some of the things that we are looking at that I think are well attainable. And again, this plan, and I don't want to overstate this, but it is visionary. It's really an attempt to say we want to get the details right, getting the hotel in here, getting the cluster developed, but also to envision the town with amenities and with job opportunities and with linkages that it doesn't currently have. So, just to give you a sense of, and we've had a little bit of discussion about bonding already, we think it's not out of the question to think about a bond strategy going forward. And when I say going forward, I'm not just using that like consultant speak. I want to give you an example around what Oklahoma City did, and we worked with them on their MAPS program. It's a very red city. It's a very conservative city. And no one thought that a continuing bond package would pass in a place like Oklahoma City. It has. It's been wildly successful with the reclaiming of the river. And when they began the MAPS program, the fact that the U.S. Olympic Rowing Center would be in Oklahoma City was just utterly ridiculous notion. And it is. They reclaimed the river from what is essentially a gulch and is now a free-flowing river to one that is becoming a recreational amenity. Just quite extraordinary. And again, you're not Oklahoma City, but the methodology by which this was achieved is one that I think Sahuarita can learn from. And in fact, your current bond package is a step in that direction. Every single MAPS bond that went before the voters has passed. So what does the implementation of this all look like? And what is required of the City Council? Right now, the requirement of the City Council is it's the approval of the plan. But beyond that, I think it's, and I don't think Victor expected me to say this, but I know that he'll be happy that I do, is support of those efforts. Victor is an exceptional economic developer. And again, I'm not speaking out of school here. And the implementation matrix is daunting. It's daunting. But it's also doable. And so we broke it down into timelines. And we tried to be as specific as we could along each of these tasks, who the lead organization is, what kind of support it will need, what's ongoing, and then the time frames for all of this. Tried to be as specific as we could be. So I'm going to conclude there because it's been a long evening for you all. And yes, we did go look at the asphalt plant. But I welcome questions, and it's been an honor to work with Sahuarita. Yes, Councilwoman.
So are you talking about a bond for economic development separate from a bond for?
No. It would be a continuing series of bonds to support what we call PLACE, which are the amenities and facilities and infrastructure that supports growth.
Mayor and Council,
Yes.
I would just add that if our community was successful in passing a bond in 2024, and we delivered on our promises to the community through that bond. It just, as we evolve and we grow and we mature as a community, it makes going the next round even easier. And like Oklahoma City, you deliver on your promises, you enhance the quality of life and the services in your community. Those types of bonds and ventures in partnership with your residents becomes more and more palatable.
Right.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think everything is opened just depending on timing and needs at the time, as Oklahoma City showed. And I know, you know, thanks for working with us. And, you know, I remember going back probably 9 years now when Mayor Bloomberg was up here. We were truly a one-legged stool back then. Residential growth was really what we were connected to. So I think working with Victor and the team and Shane, you know, we've made great strides towards that. You know, we have a hospital now. We have a Samtec. There's a lot of possibilities, I think, in there, but it's having the vision and then embracing it and leaning into it is what's required of it. But I think we have shown with that openness and willingness to invest in it what the outcome has been. Questions, Bill, Simon, any questions? Yes.
So do we need a bond to attract a community college here?
Well, I think that's probably, I'm guessing that's probably a little
Yes,
soon. I think we get
It
the
is
first
soon,
one.
but I love the question. I think that's the perfect example of what a bond might look like to support land development that would support it.
Right.
We had a community college down here. They pulled out.
Yeah, that was at CPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think where we are now, you know, working with the school district, they working with Pima Community College, I'd say is the genesis of that, because we've already shown the ability to have that high degree of dual enrollment, and where kids can graduate with up towards of an associate's degree. That didn't exist when my girls, you know, were in school. So I think it's a timeline question, Diane, and I think as we get there, Shane?
And engaging
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
PCC.
members of the council. Let's just say that we were successful with this bond, and it called for a new rec center. Who's to say that we don't capitalize on the initiative already in place between our high schools and Pima Community College, and we partner with either Pima Community College or a Rio Salado or another post-secondary
Grand Canyon tried to get in the area before.
But we're building a new building, so why not partner and see if there's potential there to attract a more local presence of post-secondary education.
Right, and that goes to the programming of, you know, outside entrance that, you know, at nighttime they could get and have bathrooms and things like that. Diane?
Yeah, no, I like that idea because I remember Victor and I went to a conference on economic development, and one of the key takeaways that I brought back with me was the need to partner with community colleges for workforce development, that was a key for economic development. Am I correct in that?
That's absolutely correct. And if I may, Counselor, we're open to the idea of mixed-use development.
Mm-hmm.
We have found great success in mixed-use development, and a college does not have to be standalone.
Right.
And we have been in communities in the Green Bay area and elsewhere where the location of the college has just been wrong, and when tied to a mixed-use development.
But we got to get out of this paradigm that you got to build something. Many people are going through school 4 years and never attending a college. They're virtual. They're at home. We could set up a room full of computers, and they attended there. And they don't have to attend one. They could attend it across the world. So we got to keep thinking about how the technology is changing, and it's not just brick and mortar.
Right. I mean, the food bank's working right now on that welding, all virtual welding class from there. But I think that goes back to your point about a multi-use,
That's right.
you know, building where it could be a bank of computers and not necessarily traditional classroom.
And I think Councilor Bracco is exactly right. At a maximum, not at a minimum, at a maximum it will be a hybrid.
Right.
A hybrid. That's the most that any employer is going to be hoping for. It's the most that any school can hope for at this point. And so there are design opportunities within that space that a forward-looking community can grab as well. We're going to continue to work. We're not a smart company because we don't know when to quit. We don't have any margins as a result, but we will continue to work with Sahuarita because we think extraordinary things will happen here. I don't often say that.
Right, thank you. Any surprises? I know, you come into a community, unless you've been here before, but I doubt you were. Kind of what was that last surprise takeaway?
So I think there were numerous surprises. The mines, and actually being able to tour the mines was a surprise. But the surprise there is the willingness of those industries to work with you. To become part of the fabric of the community, and that's not something we see all the time. It's usually adversarial.
Right. Yes. Yep. No, we've tried really hard not to be that. Thank you. Any other questions to the left? Right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion, if you'd like.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the Economic Development Master Plan.
So, second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very excited, ayes. Any nays? Better not be. Okay. Passes unanimously with excitement, and I hope you do
Thank you, Mr.
continue to
Mayor.
work with us. I
Thank you,
appreciate
councilors.
all your hard work. Thank you. Having no more further business, we're adjourned.